It's such a difficult thing to be able to see photos that come across your timeline from your social media accounts to where you're faced with the reality that pre COVID, that is what you looked like. But post COVID, this is what you let yourself become. This is really and honestly my biggest vulnerability right here. The fact that I really don't carry weight anywhere else except for in the stomach area, the chest area, the neck and face area, which would lead you to believe I probably have a lot of visceral fat, and it's definitely my most vulnerable thing when it comes to fitness and health. To be quite honest, it's the thing that I am most self conscious about. It's the thing that kind of makes me have anxiety a little bit from a health anxiety standpoint about my long term projections and outcomes in terms of health consequences as I get a little older. For me personally, I'm not as concerned about the weight moving on the scale. Once upon a time, like any other normal human being, I very much cared about those type of things. However, in my current state, I'm more so worried about recompositioning my body. And that's when I look into the mirror. It's the thing that I see that reflects and stares back at me, if you will. It's the fact that my body does not look the way that I want it to look personally. I don't love the way that I have configured myself, the way that I am representing myself to the rest of the world. And that comes down to that's cool, that's great. What exactly are you going to do about it? I'm doing a lot of compound lifts, guys. I'm trying to focus on the 5 to 6 exercises that are going to give me 80% of the things that I am searching for. And then I'll work on those accessory movements to give me the final 20% of the physique that I would like to achieve. When you do compound movements, any of you guys have been in the gym before, any of you guys who have ever, lifted weights before, have ever had to go through a structured program before, whether you played sports, you were in the military, or you just personally trained for potentially maybe competition, maybe you were a strongman, maybe you worked in, physique, whatever. You guys know that these things tax your body. They're not easy to do. They do take a lot of technique, and nobody's perfect. I mean, even me myself, I have to really pay attention to the barbell travel when I'm doing something like a deadlift. The barbell does tend to get away from me when I'm deadlifting. Like, straightforward, I know for a fact that if I'm not super careful, I can hurt my back because I'm being a little lazy or I'm lifting too heavy instead of just doing it properly. I really wish there was a quick and easy way to spot reduce fat, right? I mean, when you look at a physique like mine, there's not a whole lot on my arms. There's not a whole lot on my, my legs, my quads, my hamstrings, my calves, my biceps, my triceps, my forearms, the extremities, those further parts of my body that are further away from, the center of my body, don't tend to hang on to a whole lot of fat, whether it's subcutaneous or other. I don't hold on to a ton of fat there. However, when you look at my midsection, my stomach, as much as I would love to spot, reduce those type of things, and as convinced as I am about this being mostly a visceral fat issue, you can't spot reduce it, man. The only thing you can do is work. You keep working, and eventually it's got to pull from it, right? Because there's only so many places on my body that it could potentially pull from. And it's not necessarily, like I said, guys, I'm not worried about the number on the scale. I know that'll go down as long as I'm being somewhat, respectful with the diet I put myself on and the amount of calories that I'm consuming. And I, stick to mostly whole foods. I don't think anyone's 100% whole foods, but, the majority, 80% of your diet's made up of whole foods, if you will. The problem is that it takes time, guys, to reconfigure, right? To recomp, for your body to go through recomposition. It takes a little bit of time for you to reach that outcome. It doesn't happen overnight. And I do think that for me personally, that's kind of a sticking point because I know, the thing that I tell my oldest daughter, she's a softball player and she's also, in advanced classes. She's in a veterinarian program at a local high school around here where she basically finishes that off and she gets some kind of a vet tech licensing when she completes high school. And a lot of times she complains about, the work for softball, the work for, school, things like that. And the thing that I always tell her is true for me too. The only thing standing between you and everything you've ever wanted to achieve in life is just work. It's just simply work. Same thing for me. The only thing that stands between me and the physique and the health, because the health I think is a little bit more important than the physique, to be honest, but the physique is definitely an indicator of my health. The only thing standing between us is work. Like, I do bust my butt. I am working out harder than what it probably seems by looking at, my body right now. But at the same time, I know that this is going to be a working, a process of work it's not going to be completed within a couple of months. This is not going to go away in, 30 days, 60 days. Like, it's mostly what I'm going to assume a lot of visceral fat there. And when you're dealing with visceral fat, you got a fight ahead of you. It's not going to be a quick and simple process here. Like, you got some work to do. Some of you are probably rightfully wondering if I'm not weighing myself in terms of judging my weight loss or like my reconfiguration of my body, right? How I'm kind of going in there and recompositioning myself. You're probably wondering then, like, how do you determine anything? I would say the first thing to recognize here or to realize here is that I'm still taking measurements, and there is a point of no return to where, like, I would reanalyze. Basically, for me, if I'm going up more than 2 pounds in a week, so if I'm coming in and I'm measuring at the end of the week like 3 pounds up or so, that's probably going to cause me to go back and kind of take a look at what I'm doing and try to make some determinations of, like, okay, like, what can I fix here? Am I eating too much? Am I consuming too much sodium, right? Hanging on to too much water. I'm looking at all the different variables, right? Am I getting enough sleep? We have, like I said, guys, we have a 2-year-old who just turned 2 who is G-tube fed. So she's got a gastric tube in her belly. That's how she gets substances, partially. She also gets mouth fed a little bit too, but you get both, right? Those G-tubes do get infections in them sometimes. There's just nothing you can do. It's going to get infected from time to time. She's currently going through that, and that requires a lot of kind of like adjustments to my sleep schedule. That's going to cause problems. The way that I'm personally really trying to track this outside of just measuring my weight is we sat down, my wife and I, we took the time to do measurements, to take measurements of my chest, to take measurements of my waistline, take measurements of like my thighs, take measurements of my calves, take measurements of my arms. And we're looking, obviously, like for me, I got chicken legs and, puny arms. To be honest, I have a little bit of a runner's body. If I'm gaining a little bit of size on my arms or my legs, probably a good thing for me, guys. I don't really think you could take much off of, 13-inch calves, guys. I mean, for a guy, you're not getting much thinner than that, to be honest. At the same time, like if I'm taking my measurements and like my chest measurements aren't quite coming out right, if my waist measurement in particular is increasing, those are telltale signs along with a weight gain that, okay, the variable here is you're not probably putting yourself into a caloric deficit. Like that doesn't seem like something that's happening here. To be honest, one measurement I'm like reflecting on right now that I wish I would have taken, and I'll probably will take it later, but I won't have that original start date, is I wish I would have taken measurements of my shoulders, like the broadness. I wish I would have done that before I started. Just now thinking about it, and it just now crossed my mind. It's probably something I would go back on and kind of reflect on and maybe make a, addition to those measurements to kind of know how things are going. But that's pretty much it. Like, I think we all have these, self-made biases of ourselves, right? Sometimes they're truly reflective and they're, true of ourselves, but we're always going to be kind of our own, greatest critics. I mean, no matter what a person says to you, it's nowhere near as bad as what's being said internally by yourself to yourself. Like it's never going to surpass that level, in my opinion. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention. If you guys would like to see a little bit more content, YouTube's telling me for you guys to check this video out right here. And that'll give you a little bit of feel for what this channel is about. All right, peace, y'all. I'm out of here.